marijuana is used for medical purposes because it relieves your pain and allows you to sleep better. But we'll talk about how it's still negatively affecting you. And then there's also a mix of the sativa plant and the indica plant. And it depends on you as the person and how your body is. It affects each person differently. So ways marijuana is consumed, it can be smoked and baked through a pipe, hookah, a joint, blunt. It can also be ingested through things you eat, like cookies, brownies, candies, drinks. If you guys watch the news, you might have seen some news where candy they found on the news where some candy had marijuana. Yeah. So we have to be very careful, especially if that candy is being consumed by our children. So here are just some facts. 60% of high school students believe that most of their peers or classmates use marijuana. But as we go into the presentation, that's actually not the case. It's actually less than 60%. The truth is, 2 out of 10 high school students have used marijuana. They might not be addicted, but they might have tried it in the past month.
هو ممنوع حتى لو كنت انه لازم يكون مضاد حتى يقدر يشتريها. طب كيف ياخذوها؟
There are people who do it like behind everyone else, like in the back. They hide it. They do it secretly.
يعني هي مو منيحة للي بيكون عمرهم صغير.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. You have to be 21. In Michigan,
يعني في عن جد أولاد use it.
Yeah, they still get it. They can get a lot of stuff. If we talk to the students in these high schools, if you talk to them, they'll say it's very easy to get anything, even marijuana. It's super easy for them to get.
يعني يخلي الولد فوكس أكثر ولا شو بيعمل مع اللي بياخذوه هذا بس الإحصائيات عليه ليش يعني هون شو صار معهم لما أخذوه؟
Because if they have like mental health issues, if they have pain issues, if they don't want to feel like sad, they're gonna take it because it makes them feel better. Yeah. So here are some facts. In the year 2022, 30% of 12th graders used marijuana in the past year, as a whole. And only 6.3% used it daily in the past month. So when we're comparing marijuana, the drug, to students who don't use marijuana and students who do use marijuana, we can see that those who use marijuana are less likely to graduate, they have bad grades, and it's harming their brain. So our brain is connected to everything in our body. It's connected to the way we move, it's connected to the way we feel, it's connected to our judgment. What is wrong? Why should we do that? Should we not do that? It's connected to our thoughts and everything that we do in our daily lives. So if somebody is taking marijuana and very frequently, it's going to affect their movement. They're not going to move the way they want. They're going to have more fear and more anxiety. They take it because it somewhat relieves their pain temporarily, but not in the long term. And it affects their judgment. They might think, oh, this is okay, but it really isn't. But because they're taking marijuana, it's going to confuse them and think, oh, it's okay, just do it. And we'll go more into that. And it also affects their memory, which is why it becomes very difficult if a student is taking marijuana. So here are just some facts. So if we're talking about whether students, it's easy for them to get marijuana, middle schoolers say 10% of middle schoolers say that yes, it is easy to get it. But when you talk to high schoolers, almost 50% say it's easy to access it, which shows that it's accessible, especially for high schoolers. The percentage of students, do they believe that their parents think of it as bad? Okay, let's see. Middle schoolers say not almost 100% for sure their parents think it's wrong. They shouldn't. But high schoolers, it's a little bit less. But overall, students do know that their parents have a negative outlook and they think it's bad and that they shouldn't do it. They know that their parents wouldn't approve of it. And 29%, almost 30%, tried marijuana. So that's That's more than one every 5 students, which is that's still a lot. It shouldn't be 30%. It should be less than 10%. It should be even 0%, because it shouldn't be. They shouldn't be using it because they're still young. So, if you're wondering what's the average year that they start using marijuana, it's actually 13 and 9 months, which means they're still in middle school and they're being exposed to things such as marijuana. And if we talk about another percentage of how many students use it, 17.3% used it in the past 30 days. So this is just an image. Smaller brain, lower IQ, which means that they're not going to understand things like other people would understand. It's going to be harder for them to understand because their brain function is lower now because of the marijuana. So, marijuana, just like alcohol, under the influence can affect the way you drive. It can compromise your judgment. Whether you see a car in front of you, when to stop, all of that is affected when you take marijuana. And it's affected, you know how you really need to pay attention because if a car stops in front of you, you have to stop very quickly. You have to react very fast because other drivers, they might not be driving safe either. So if you're taking marijuana, it's even affecting your reaction time to other dangerous things around you, which means you're impacting yourself and others around you. It makes it difficult, as we said, to judge the distance and reacting to the cars in front of you or to the sounds on the road. And it creates a higher chance of them being in an accident. So as we talked about previously, it really does have a negative effect on students and their academic excellence. So students who smoke marijuana tend to get lower grades and drop out of school. And they also have a less of a high IQ. They have a lower IQ. So let's go more into detail about the brain. So substance use is affecting these three things: extended reasoning, impulse control, delaying gratification. So extended reasoning is, you know how you have a few decisions, an opportunity, and you're trying to figure out what's really good and what's really bad. Like you're really thinking about it. What's the research? What's the evidence? For people who use marijuana, especially students, they're not really going into that deep reasoning, why they shouldn't do it, why they shouldn't, or why they should do it. It's very simple. I want to do it. I want to do it. I'm gonna do it. They're not really thinking complex thoughts that they should be thinking. Impulse control. Usually, when you want to do something, you have an impulse to do it, but you control yourself. Impulse control means you control yourself. You don't want to do it because you know it's bad for you. You have that control on your behavior. But when you use marijuana, you don't have that impulse control, which means if you have a thought of to do something, you're more likely to do it. You don't have that control anymore about your on your behavior. Delaying gratification. So sometimes we might say, okay, it's okay, we're not gonna do that because in the future I'm gonna have a better reward. So you're delaying the reward for an even bigger reward. But if you use marijuana, especially the youth, they just are thinking about the instant reward. They're thinking about, oh, I want this right now. I can't wait for the future. What's gonna happen in the future? That's really long ahead of me. So they're not really thinking far ahead on how it's gonna affect them in the consequences. And the main brain part that is affected is called the prefrontal cortex. This is basically where your reasoning happens. What's wrong? What's bad? You know how usually the youth, they're really risky. They really don't understand that this is bad for them. That's a part of the brain that's still developing. And which is the reason why they like to take risky behavior, is because their brain is still developing. But as we know, our brain has a lot of beautiful functions. It helps you figure out what activities you like. So it associates, let's say this is your first time playing basketball, and then you're really laughing, you're having fun with your friends. Your brain will tell you, okay, so every single time I play basketball, I'm going to have a reward, I'm going to have fun. So you're associating these two together. It allows you to learn new things and allows you to make thoughtful choices, really thoughtful choices. So very successful students think about, oh, what should I do in college? oh, I really should go to college because that degree is going to make me look better, and I'm going to have more knowledge. So when I go into an interview, I'm like, yes, I have the knowledge and I have the capabilities of doing the job that you want me to do. It helps plan for the future, as we said, and it allows you to understand others, putting yourself in other people's shoes. All of this comes through your brain and how it functions. But if you're taking marijuana, all of these are not going to work well. You're not going to have all of these anymore. You're not going to be able to think right. You're not going to be able to make good choices. This video down. Okay, so it creates your personality. So based on what you enjoy, your talents, your personality, your values, it all comes with the way your brain functions. Which is why we see everybody is so unique. It's because every single brain is different than anyone. So your brain is not the same as anyone else's brain. Because your brain developed uniquely depending on your mother, depending on your father, depending on your home, your environment, your experiences, creates a whole different brain compared to other people. That's why we're seeing all of these different personalities, these different likes, these different skills that each person has. So one person might not like music and they might like sports, and the other person might like music and they might not like sports. It goes either way. It just depends on your brain. Our brain also helps us have good relationships, build good friendships. So if you really look into people who use substances like marijuana, you can see that they don't really have a strong friendship group. Because if they did, they wouldn't have to go to these substances to feel good or to feel better. Because you should go to your friends. They should make you feel better. You shouldn't have to go to substances to uh, not feel sad or depressed. There are other things, but because they don't have a strong friend group, they feel alone. They feel isolated. They feel like, where am I supposed to go to? Where am I supposed to go? And so they go to these substances by themselves, and it helps you find new skills, and it makes you find what feels good. So our brains continue to develop until the age of 25, which is why if you look at the legal aspects of marijuana, you can see that you have to be above 21 to use marijuana. You shouldn't be in middle school or high school. You're not even allowed to use it anywhere when you're that young. But somehow they still are able to get it. Because the brain of somebody who's really young and the brain of somebody their brain is fully developed when they pass the age of 25. So when you're above 25 and you first start using marijuana, it's going to impact you differently. It's going to change your brain a little bit differently. It's not the same as a youth using marijuana. It's not the same as an adult using marijuana. So these are the short-term aspects. Affects your memory, your learning, your thinking, your judgment, the way you coordinate your moving. So coordination is basically coordination to maybe shoot a ball or to hit the volleyball or to shoot a basket. All of that requires coordination. So if you're taking marijuana, you're not going to be able to do sports as well, which is why you don't really see athletes, people who really care about their health using these, because they know it's going to impact them and they're not going to be able to do well in the sports. It affects your attention. It gives you paranoia and hallucinations. So you're seeing things that's not there. It's not real. You might be paranoid. Oh, I'm gonna die. Oh, this person's trying to hurt me. All of that it's not reality. It's just your confused thoughts because you're taking substances. Here are the long-term effects of marijuana: addiction, impaired brain functioning. Your brain is not going to function anymore as well as it used to. You can have panic attacks, depression. All of these are negative. It can even cause you to have very negative thoughts. It can even cause you to maybe think about ending your life, which is very serious. And you shouldn't have to go to that point. And you shouldn't be using a substance that is causing you to have such negative thoughts. So here are some of the reasons why youth use substances. So there's curiosity, they have misinformation, they want to ease their pain, peer pressure, escaping bullying to feel better. So what do you guys think is one of the main reasons that kids use marijuana? Yeah.
Peer pressure.
Huh?
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure. Peer pressure is a very big one. Yes, this is why you have to be aware of who's around your kids. Because if they vape or if they use marijuana, it might seem to them that, okay, hey, if they're using marijuana, what's the big issue? They might not see it as an issue because they're seeing those around them use it. They're not around the right type of people. But they might just really not have the right information, which is very, very risky. That's why as a parent, you really have to inform them why this is so bad. Especially because it's legal in America. It's illegal for you to use marijuana, but you have to be above 21 and you can't use it in public places. So if you notice as you drive, you might see cannabis. You might see cannabis advertisements. There's also that one big green building that has the genie. That has to do with marijuana. So it's there because it's legal in Michigan. So that means you have to make your child aware and give them the right information. So what is addiction? Addiction basically is your brain got so used to using that substance to feel good. So when you're no longer taking it, it gives you you crave it. You crave the marijuana after a while. It's going to keep you taking it so that because now your brain has to associate the feeling good, the feeling of feeling high with that. So your brain is no longer able to feel good without it. It can only feel good with it. It can only feel good with the marijuana. So anybody can be addicted. So let's say, for example, your parents are addicted to alcohol or they're addicted to smoking. Their child is at a higher risk of having that addiction or being addicted to something because it can be genetic. Your environment, the way your body is, and the way your body is developing can also increase the risk of you using marijuana. So you can be very dependent on it because now your body won't be able to function. You'll feel very uncomfortable when you no longer have that marijuana or that substance. Addiction makes it very hard for you to stop. So if you're smoking marijuana every single day, then all of a sudden you have a feeling you want to stop, you want to quit. But it's going to be very hard because your body has become so used to it and so adjusted to you using, let's say, for example, marijuana. It's going to make you very uncomfortable. It might cause you to have headaches. It might cause you to have body sores. It's uncomfortable, and that uncomfortable feeling will only go away. You think the uncomfortable feeling will only go away once you go back to that substance. So here are some consequences of using marijuana. So it can cause you to become suspended in school. It can maybe require you to go into drug treatment programs. It can cause you to go to jail. So certain places, even though not America, but in other places in the United States, it's actually illegal to have marijuana whatsoever. Even if it's for medical purposes, you can still go to jail. So not every place allows you to use marijuana. And it has social consequences. So you know that driving under the influence can cause you to hit another car and they're gonna lose their lives. So because you were irresponsible and you decided to use a substance that affects the way you think and move, and you hit a car and that person lost their lives. So now you're going to jail because you were so addicted and dependent on the substance. which is very serious because you're not only affecting yourself, you're affecting other people around. So, the three big factors. Is it easy to get? What's the norm? Do people see it as bad? Do people see it as normal? So, for example, tobacco is very common. You can easily get it. So, you can just get it. You can get addicted to it very easily because it's so available. If you're in a state like Michigan where it is legal, that means you're going to find places that it's going to be easy for you to get it, which means a higher risk of you being addicted. What do your peers, your parents, and other adults think? This is if the people around you have a very negative outlook on something, you're less likely to do it because you care about your friends, you care about your parents, you care about how they think of you. So if they have a negative outlook on you doing something, you're less likely to do it. Perceived harm. Do you think it's harmful for you? So if you really are careless and you think, oh, there's no problem, it's not gonna affect me. I don't see an effect. That's gonna make you just want to do it. It's not gonna hurt. But if you were to find out that it's harmful, then you're less likely to go to it. So as Muslims, we always know that alcohol is bad for you. So because of that, you don't see an issue with it that much. You have that red line, that red circle around it, so you'll never approach it in the first place. So you're preventing for you to become addicted. So what can you do as a parent or as an adult? Just make them aware. Start talking to them when they're very young, like by the age of 14. Just tell them, hey, there's this substance. It's called marijuana. Give them some facts. Let them know that it's bad, so that another person outside of the family can't just come to them, say, hey, you should try this. But they know, oh, I know that it's bad. I'm not even gonna. You're lying. You're lying. Who are they gonna believe? They're gonna believe their family, their parents. So in the first place, if you start off by saying this is bad, draw a line, draw a boundary, never try it, never do it, then you're setting up your child for success. You have to set specific, very clear rules, like you absolutely whatsoever never try it and under any circumstance. So just be open, be honest. Just tell them, hey, this is gonna affect your brain. It's gonna affect your body. Don't you like soccer? Don't you like basketball? These things are not gonna allow you to do that. It's gonna give you pain. It's gonna give you breathing problems. So just stay away from it. You can role play. You can practice with your teens. Maybe say, well, what would you do if somebody came to you asking for you to try smoking or to try marijuana? Well, what's the response? If the response is no, no, thank you. I know it's bad for me. I'm not gonna try it. That's good. That's what you want your child to do when somebody approaches them in that way. It's not for every. When they're still young, you can let them be. But like when they're starting to be exposed to it more and more, that's when you have to make them aware that it's bad for them. And tell them like, hey, you might think that marijuana is very used a lot in high school or in middle school. Tell them no, you might think it is, but it's really not. Most of your students actually, most of your classmates actually don't use it. So why should use it? Why should you use it? So we talked about these, but here is just a summary of the misconceptions and the myths. So if you think marijuana is harmless, it is harmful. It harms your body physically, your thoughts. It affects your learning. It affects the way your body moves. And people might think you can't get addicted to marijuana, but yes, you can because it goes through your lungs, it reaches your blood system, and it goes to your brain, and it affects the way your brain functions. So of course, it's going to be addicting for you, and you're going to be dependent on it. Marijuana doesn't make you lose control, it makes you calm. As we talked about before, it does affect your coordination and your muscle movement and the way you move. So it does. It doesn't just make you calm, it makes you incapable of moving your body in a certain way, reacting to certain things that are dangerous. It's just a plant. But we know that not every plant is healthy for us. We know plants are poisonous. Some are good for certain illnesses, certain for medical purposes if you're sick. But it goes both ways. Some are harmful, some are harmless. Marijuana is the harmful one. It's a harmful plant because it affects your mental health and the way you breathe, your lungs. So let's also talk more about what parents can do. So just give them resources. The resources that you learned today. Just hey, I was at the school and they talked about this. Here are some of the facts that they taught us. So yeah, teach your kids just some facts about marijuana. Share the information and tell them, hey, share that information with your friends so we can create a community where we all know it's bad. We all say no. Because if we have a strong community that is against marijuana, there's a less likelihood of anybody going into marijuana. And check how they're doing. Check how your kid is. Are they feeling sad? Are they feeling depressed? How are they dealing with that? Ask them, hey, I know that you're feeling sad and down. What are you doing to help yourself? Ask them. See, what are they doing? Maybe are they watching TV that makes them laugh? Are they exercising to make them feel better? These are healthy activities. If they're using healthy behaviors to make them feel better, to cope with depression and anxiety, that's good. That's a good sign. And maybe they'll say, "Oh, if I feel down, I'll talk to my friend or I'll go to my friend." Those are very good signs. But if they tell you, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know what to do, you should tell them, introduce these good healthy activities for them to cope with their depression, their anxiety, and them feeling low. So if they know how to handle it, they won't go to marijuana or other substances. You have to be very clear and very consistent. Repeat it to them, like, hey, it's bad. Like repeat it constantly. Hey, it's bad. Marijuana is bad. Oh, did you see they put marijuana in candy? Oh, did you see this person was hurt? They were in pain and they died from marijuana. Just tell them, make them aware of things that happen to other people because they use marijuana. Let them know that you're always there for them, that they don't have to go and handle it all by themselves. If they know that if they have an issue and they can go to you, they don't have to go to anyone else or any other substance. If they don't have anybody to go to in the family, they might go to somebody outside of the family and that person might introduce them to unhealthy stuff as like marijuana. So a healthy, safe environment at home will make them less likely to go out and reach for the unhealthy activities like marijuana. And here are some information and resources. That's it. Any questions? Yeah. You wouldn't know. That's why you have to just tell them if you get something, another. You have to tell them not to eat anything outside. Yeah, I don't know, but outside. So you have to look at, is something wrong with them? Like if they have, if they're hallucinating, if they have any of the symptoms of marijuana, then they can put that. They may something as well. Yeah.
I just wanted to tell her that there's a smell.
Oh,
So if they have a cookie or a brownie, it's gonna smell like gummy bears, candy, all that, they're gonna smell. They're gonna get smell. And then if your kids are on it, you're gonna see it in their eyes. They're gonna get in there.